Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special Angel Advisory Christmas podcast. Why is it a Christmas podcast, I hear you ask? There's a Christmas tree. Yeah? Cool. Joined today by Marie Lazar from Futurity. She's here to educate us on education bonds. G'day, everyone. Before we dive into it with Marie, just a quick reminder that nothing that we discuss in this podcast should be considered a product recommendation or personalised financial advice. If you are interested in financial advice, you should reach out to a licensed financial advisor. Can you tell us a little bit about the education bond?
Sure thing. Thank you, Tom. So an education bond is basically a savings and investment plan for families to help fund current and future education expenses for their children and grandchildren. And what makes Futurity special with the education bond is that we can offer tax benefits if you do use the bond to fund education. But the great thing is that it's flexible enough to also fund non-education needs as well, including other life events such as future home deposits. So it can be more like a life event bond, and it also has some really handy estate planning features.
Great. So the education bond, it can be used for education. It doesn't have to be.
Sure.
You may want to consider using it for education because of the article you sent me.
Oh, yeah.
This is like every parent's nightmare, maybe. Letter in the mail, hey guys, school fees are going up
Exactly.
significantly.
That's it.
So we've got here independent schools, private schools. Is that interchangeable?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Private school parents facing an average fee hike of 7% next year, more than double the headline rate of inflation. So it's pretty unwelcome news for families with kids who are already there.
That's it. And that's a national average year on year, but it's New South Wales and Victoria that has even bigger increases than that 7%.
Yeah. I kept reading and saw my old school pop up in there.
There you go.
The biggest fee increase is that of St. Kevin's College. 17%.
Wow. Wow. From 28,900 to 33,790 a year.
It's a lot.
But interestingly enough, it says St. Kevin's is the more affordable of the country's top private schools.
Well, yeah. That's probably a reflection of how much, like as a collective, all the school fees are going up. But I remember that from like when we were at school. Yeah. I remember, that was something we hung our hat on as being like, we're the cheapest of the I couldn't tell mum and dad that we're one of the cheap schools. They'd be like, okay, how come I don't have any money? I pay your school fees.
Yes.
But we were colloquially the cheapest. Staggering to think that 33,790 is, what are they saying, at the cheaper end?
It is. But then you've got some other top school fees. School fees are about 50,000 a year. That is definitely something that parents and even grandparents have to be aware of.
Yeah.
And have a plan for that if that's one of their goals.
Yeah. And this is where the education bond can come in handy for. Have you seen it? I mean, we've seen bits and pieces, but do you see it quite common for grandparents to utilize the education bond for the grandchildren, helping out the parents a bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be probably one of our most primary markets is the grandparents as well as the parents.
Yeah. And
we've got research that shows about 40% of private school fees are either fully or partially funded by grandparents. So they definitely like to help out. And with the rising cost of living, it's definitely a team effort when it comes to budgeting for that.
I think there'll be a few Geelong Grammar grandparents helping out with the 55 grand.
Yes, 55 grand a year. Most expensive school in the country. And interestingly enough, we've got also other research that says that despite the rising cost of school fees, enrollments have continued to surge towards independent and Catholic schools. So over the last 4 years, about 18.5% increase in enrollments towards independent/private schools and 6.6% increase in enrollments to Catholic schools.
Yeah.
So despite all that, there is that trend that families want to keep sending their kids to, independent and Catholic schools.
I couldn't wrap my head around this when you initially told me the stats of how much effectively the queue to get in is growing and growing every year. Because you're looking at the schools that are already notably the expensive ones, they're going up as little as 7, as much as 17%, St. Kevin's. How is the queue to get in getting longer? But then a little bit more context around, COVID was a big factor.
Yes.
Where there was a
noticeable difference.
There's a shift.
Yeah, definitely.
But the demand is there. The queue's getting longer.
Yes.
And the fees are, they're not going down. They're going up.
Yeah.
So there are going to be plenty of people in a situation where they're looking at the increased school fees going, what are we going to do? And I think an education bond
is a good plan.
Yeah, absolutely. With or without the grandparents.
Yes, yes. Anything's possible if you start early or start big later in the journey. But our education bond can also fund tertiary education as well. If university is a goal, then this can help meet that goal as well.
All right.
Mm.
So does that kind of leaves the door open for if you didn't get in when the kids are
Very young,
toddlers,
yeah.
you can still use it?
Oh yeah, you can start at primary school, high school, even
Yeah.
like closer to the end of high school. It can be used to fund further studies.
It'd be nice for the kid, the individual, to sidestep HECS.
Oh
Not have to
yeah,
worry about that.
that's true. That's true. It can really hold young adults back from even getting a house or getting like a car. So
Yeah, it affects how much you can borrow.
yes, definitely.
And it hangs around HECS.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So if I can go off on a tangent for a moment, one thing that we see with a lot of clients sit down and discuss insurance. And the first thing that comes to mind when we say, what would you like covered for, unexpected, undesirable events in the future? They say, oh, the mortgage, right? So if one partner were to pass away, they don't want to leave this whopping debt. Part of that is you don't want to have to sell the asset to cover the loan. And you have to lose the house on top of this monumental kind of family tragedy. I saw when we were discussing the education bond, I saw it similar to that, but rather than, the mortgage or the home loan, keeping the house, you're keeping the kids in the school that they're at with their friends, doing the activities that they're doing. So the education bond kind of similar to a life insurance policy, it sets a bar that you won't dip below.
That's a good
point. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
And like you mentioned in COVID, there are a lot of people going, well, there's lost jobs. We're going to have to change this, potentially pulling kids out of the school.
Yeah.
Now, how do you explain to a kid? You tell them, oh, because of this, and this, you can't go to that school anymore. The kid's just going to be like, no, that's where all my friends are.
Exactly.
They're not going to understand it.
Yes.
The education bond can kind of shore up the fee situation.
Yes.
So that, terrible things happen every day. We
That's
don't know what the future holds for any of us. But you can have the peace of mind of, well, whatever happens, I'm not pulling the kids out of school and saying you're not seeing your friends anymore. You're going to have to go and make new friends.
Yeah.
And you're not going to piano lessons and you're not going to hockey training. We're changing all that.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, and that isn't every day that happens. I mean, even my friend earlier in the year, her husband had lost his job and they had two girls in Christian schools. And along the way, he was still looking for work. My friend actually had to pull the extracurricular activities away from her daughters. So no more netball, no music, piano lessons.
Yeah.
And that was just until he was able to get a job. But I remembered her telling me around middle of the year, if he doesn't get a job by the end of the year, we're going to actually have to pull them out of the school altogether. Thankfully, he did get a job at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they stayed in the same school, but it's just, I guess, a reminder that it would be best to have a safety net in that case. An education bond can actually sustain any kind of changes like that. Life can throw at you these kinds of emergency situations where the school fees are covered and the children's school journeys aren't affected.
And not just the guarantee itself for if that event happens in the future, it's the peace of mind in the meantime.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
You go, well, we won't have to even consider this in the future. We know that's taken care of.
Definitely. And the flexibility that the education bond allows is that if the children don't end up going to university, that is okay. The bond can be then used to fund other life events. It can be redeemed tax-free after the 10-year mark and then used for other life events.
Flexibility.
Definitely.
That's great. You set up the education bond, kid turns out to be a genius, gets a scholarship. You just locked yourself in a house deposit because we don't have to pay your school fee.
That's it.
The only thing I would say is very different to the education bond, different to the life insurance policy because you're paying premiums.
Exactly.
To a provider.
And you may never get that back.
Yeah. And an education bond, you're just investing your money.
Exactly. Yes.
So with regard to the education bond itself, could you just give us an entry level at least to start with, what they are, how they work, and in what ways they're advantageous to the people that they're suitable for?
Sure thing. So an education bond is basically a savings and investment plan to help fund children's education, but also other life events as well. So it is very flexible in that way. So you can think of it as a tax structure like superannuation, where the bond provider, being Futurity, will pay the tax on the earnings on behalf of the bond owner. We start at a tax rate of 30%, so different from superannuation, which is 15, but often we can get that tax rate a little bit lower. So it should suit any parents on a 30 plus marginal tax rate, or even grandparents, but more from an estate planning perspective.
So suitable in particular for people on an MTR higher than 30. When you talk about the bond provider pays the tax, it starts off at the max it can be is 30.
That's our company tax rate, yes.
Right?
Correct.
Is it hard to nail down an actual figure of what you could expect to pay in tax because it's different bond to bond, person to person?
Different according to the investment option selected. So we could be paying tax lower than 30%, on an average between 18 to 24%, depending on which investment option you go with. For a high growth option, the tax rate could be lower if it's Australian shares. So we do have a range of menu options you can select, and we can actually get tax rates that vary around that 20 to 25% mark as opposed to the full 30%. Yeah. So an important unique feature of our education bond is that if you do use the earnings to fund education expenses, we actually credit the earnings balance by 30%. So we'll give you a little bit of money back into your education bond if you are going to use it for education funding. But importantly, you can actually use the money for any purpose as well, and there's no tax consequences for that.
So called an education bond,
yes,
but it's not absolutely, it must be used for those purposes. Can be used for anything.
Correct.
Life event bond?
Yes, a life event bond would be another great name for it. But that unique 30% tax credit makes it quite special. So we do stick with the education bond name, but it really is more flexible than the name suggests.
Yeah. And speaking of flexibility, it seems to me very different to superannuation, to other investment vehicles in the way that you can kind of tailor it to what you need. Specifically for, I think you used the term blended family.
Yes.
Before.
It does suit all families, but it can cater very well for that blended family structure. Yes.
So that allows you to direct it to
specific children or beneficiaries within a family. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have all sorts of scenarios where, for instance, second marriages, where you've got two parents coming together in their second marriage with children from prior marriages.
Both with kids.
And each parent taking out an education bond for their own children and protecting it in a way so that when the time comes, if they want to pass on that wealth, it wouldn't be challenged by, say, the stepchildren or even their spouse. So there is definitely ways to protect money within the bloodlines of one family.
And one that you would see quite commonly, I think, if you were to go just via the will, a former partner could come in, contest it and say, what about this? What about this child, my child, that child, whatever.
Correct.
With the education bond, it's not up for debate effectively.
No, it actually can sit outside the will. It becomes what we call it a non-estate asset, where it wouldn't be challenged along with the will if the will was to be challenged.
And speaking of superannuation, this is a suitable product to pair with superannuation strategies, particularly for those who've maxed out contributions, maybe can't use superannuation anymore.
Yes, it would be the great next best tax paid structure outside of superannuation. So can't beat superannuation when it comes to a tax paid asset. But with an education bond, bonds in general, it would be that next best tax paid. So if you do reach your limits and you're looking for something to invest outside of superannuation, then an education bond would be quite suitable. Yeah,
and you can't beat the tax rate in super, but you can hit your caps.
Yes.
So for those people who have maxed out both or either concessional contributions, non-concessional contributions, you can't just, for FYI, you can't just take all the money you have in the world and dump it in super. There's limits year on year. For those who have maxed out that and are looking for other investment vehicles, an education bond could work hand in hand with the superannuation strategy.
That's the way.
Ask your advisor.
Yeah.
So I think we're living right now the biggest intergenerational wealth transfer event in history. Has it commenced?
That's what the analysts tell us.
Yes.
It's happening now.
It is
starting to happen.
I remember years ago hearing, any day now, this is going to happen. Be ready for it.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in it now.
I agree.
Starting to happen.
I agree. And our research shows that it's landing in the late 50s, early 60s age group. So it's actually landing in that grandparent type age range. And often at that point in life, hopefully they are in a good position. They've paid off their mortgages, paid off their debt and topped up their superannuation. There might be room to move some of that inheritance on to the next generation through something like a education bond.
Yes. And the intergenerational wealth transfer doesn't necessarily imply that someone's passed away because of what you would loosely call early inheritance.
Yes.
So a grandparent, as you mentioned, their needs are taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
They've sold assets, they've taken care of super, and they know what the next 15, 20 years of their life looks like. So they start to look beyond that and go, Susie and Billy are going to school and mum and dad, their kids are getting the hefty fees. Would we help them out?
Mm-hmm.
I think an education bond is a great way of doing that.
Yes.
Marie, thank you so much for taking time out of the day to jump on the podcast, give us your insights into the education bond. It's always good to be joined by the experts.
My pleasure.
Have a wonderful Christmas, New Year's with the family.
Thank you. And you too.
And to you at home.
Have a good one.